want to say thank you very much to Lee and to Lou for showing us around the site. It's an incredible infrastructure and asset of the local community here. It of course employs hundreds of people directly, but about 1,000 people indirectly, and that's why Bridget is such a big advocate of what happens here in this local community. We're also going to have a chance to catch up with Gavin Pearce whilst we're here in Tassie, and many other businesses and business leaders and community leaders. And it's part of our getting out of Canberra and listening to communities right across the country, and to bring the Shadow Cabinet here to Launceston to hear about the local issues, to hear about the issues that are important to people. They're not talking about what's happening in Canberra, they're talking about the situation that's facing their small business and the situation that's facing their families, and predominantly that's the issue of cost of living. There are very significant issues facing Australians, and those issues will only compound over the next couple of years. And what I worry about is that Labor is going to make a bad situation worse. And as Susan pointed out, Mr Albanese promised at the last election on 15 separate occasions, including in Tasmania, that he would reduce the household electricity price by $275, and he's now broken that promise. And he's provided no explanation as to why he won't honour the promise that he gave to the Australian public before they voted for him in May of this year. But it is going to have a detrimental impact on families, on their budgets, and it comes at a time when their mortgage is increasing, and when their grocery bill is going up, and when their gas bill is going up, and when they're paying more and more at the Bowser as well. So they're the issues that you hear from Australians on the ground, and I'm looking forward to our engagement here in Tasmania, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Minister Karen Andrews has just called for Scott Morrison to resign from Parliament after Prime Minister Anthony Albanese confirmed he appointed himself to 5 additional portfolios between March 2020 and May 2021. Do you agree with her?
Well, a couple of points in relation to this issue. Obviously, Scott Morrison's made some comments on radio this morning, and I just point you to those comments which put into context some of the decisions that he made when he was Prime Minister. Prime Minister Albanese has announced that he's seeking advice from the Solicitor General, which he expects to get back on Monday, and he's announced this process that he's put in place. So I think, frankly, it's time for cooler heads to prevail. The Prime Minister's come out of his holiday swinging, and obviously this is an issue that he'll get his teeth into, but there are bigger issues that, frankly, the families of Australia are dealing with at the moment. So let's wait for the Prime Minister's process, and we haven't seen the legal advice back from the Solicitor General, but the former Prime Minister Morrison has made comment this morning to put into context. And I think the Prime Minister is now no longer the opposition leader, he's the Prime Minister. His job is to lead this country. And normally these sort of attacks, these individual attacks on members of Parliament on the other side are normally left to the head kickers within the Labor Party, but the Prime Minister has rolled his sleeves up on this, and he sees political advantage. But at the time that he's concentrating on this, he's not explaining to the Australian public how it is that they're going to be able to pay their bills, and they're worried under this government that the bad situation is being made worse by this Labor government.
For Scott Morrison to resign?
No, I won't, and I've been clear in my comments yesterday where I dealt with this issue. When you look at the situation that we first faced in February or March of 2020, I'd come back from the United States and I was diagnosed with COVID a few days later. I was admitted to hospital at that stage, and I went into the infectious disease ward like many other Australians did at the time. I spent about 27 or 28 days in isolation at the time, which was the norm for Australians. There was no vaccination. We were looking at significant deaths coming out of Europe and out of North America, and it was a very difficult situation. The NSC at the time was advised in relation to setting up morgues adjacent to public hospitals. We had done up plans within Home Affairs to deploy police and army personnel to turn people away from emergency departments. That was the context in which the former Prime Minister, as he explained this morning, made some of the judgments that he did. But as I say, the Prime Minister sought legal advice. I think we're better to wait for that legal advice before you make any decisions about what should occur next.
Scott Morrison to resign, coming from within your own party, are you still comfortable with him being in the party?
Well, I've dealt with that issue, yeah.